Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore that often hidden world, intelligence, surveillance, and how politics plays into it all. Today, we've got a specific mission. We want to untangle this complex web of claims, allegations, and facts around U.S. government surveillance, intelligence ops, and leaks, particularly concerning the Obama administration and the Trump campaign. We're using excerpts from a specific broadcast as our source. It features investigative journalists, former intelligence officials, basically people who were digging into this. We'll use their insights to help you understand what supposedly happened and, importantly, what questions are still out there. Our goal, like always, is straightforward. Give you the knowledge, quickly, thoroughly, and crucially, remain impartial in how we report what the source material says. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with those initial claims highlighted in our source material. There was this allegation, right? A FISA court warrant granted back in October 2016.
Right. FISA Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Court for warrants involving foreign intelligence.
Exactly. And this specific warrant was supposedly to monitor a computer server, one located at Trump Tower, apparently communicating with a Russian bank. So naturally, the first questions that popped up, and which our source tackles, were things like, were Trump campaign emails connected to this server? And if they were, did they get swept up?
Yeah.
Collected as raw intelligence during that operation?
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, or maybe clarifying, is what investigative journalist Sarah Carter found, according to our source material. She brings in some crucial details. So yes, there was a FISA warrant in October 2016. That part's true.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but, it was for a broad Russian hacking investigation. It wasn't specifically targeting that Trump Tower server narrative that was out there.
Ah, I see. So the target was different.
Different target, yes. Now, the FBI did look into a server that seemed to be pinging Russian banks. Alpha Bank, SVB Bank were mentioned.
Right.
But that investigation, the one looking at that specific server communication, it wasn't done under a FISA warrant.
Oh, then.
The source says it used, quote, normal strategic type of FBI investigations. The kind that, well, didn't require the FISA.
Okay, that's a major distinction.
Yeah.
And the location, Trump Tower.
Well, according to Sarah Carter, sources cited in our material, no. This server wasn't actually in Trump Tower, despite all the reports saying it was.
Wow. Okay. And what did they find on that server?
Crucially, the source states officials, quote, quickly determined that nothing nefarious happening or going on there.
So nothing illegal.
Exactly. The source emphasizes the FBI investigation found, and I'm quoting again, no evidence at all of any type of crime associated with Trump business.
And collusion.
Also, no evidence at all whatsoever of any collusion between the campaign and the Russians. And interestingly, the source adds they didn't even find evidence of collusion with Lieutenant General Mike Flynn in relation to this server investigation.
So what's the crucial insight here for us? I mean, what does this tell you?
Well, it seems like a really stark example of how an initial story, maybe based on incomplete information, can just take off, right? Absolutely. It shapes public understanding, even if later details, like the ones from Carter reported in our source, paint a very different, much more nuanced picture, or even contradict the original story.
It really highlights that challenge, doesn't it? Trying to figure out the truth when intelligence reports are evolving so fast. Okay, so while that server investigation was happening, there was another big incident making headlines involving Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor.
That's right.
Our source digs into this. It involves a call he made in December to a Russian ambassador, a call that got picked up. The New York Times apparently called it a routine wiretap of the Russian diplomat's phone.
Yeah, and this brings up a really important concept called minimization procedures. Our source explains these.
Okay, what are those?
They're basically safeguards, rules that are supposed to be followed when U.S. intelligence is monitoring foreign officials. The whole point is to make sure that if American citizens get incidentally caught up in that surveillance, like maybe they call the foreign official, being monitored, their rights, their identity are protected. They're supposed to be minimized.
Makes sense.
Protect privacy. Exactly. But the source is very clear. That's not what happened with Lieutenant General Flynn.
What happened instead?
Well, a transcript of his call was made. It was given to intelligence officials. And then, crucially, the source says the details were leaked to the press.
Leaked.
Yes. And the source explicitly calls that leak a felony, according to the Espionage Act.
Wow. That's serious.
Very. And Sarah Carter, in the source, she stresses this Flynn incident was, quote, a completely separate incident from that broad Russian hacking FISA investigation we talked about earlier.
Different cracks entirely then.
Seems so. And it's worth noting, the source mentions the Inspector General at the Department of Justice is now looking into both the FBI and the DOJ about how this Flynn situation was handled.
That's a potentially huge breach if the source's account is accurate. Really raises questions about those safeguards. Okay, next up, our source shifts focus to something pretty significant that happened very late in the Obama administration. A change to Executive Order 12333.
That's right. Executive Order 12333, it governs a lot of intelligence activities. And the source points out that just 2 weeks before leaving office, President Obama revised this order.
2 weeks? That's tight. What did the revision do?
According to the source, it essentially, quote, green-lighted widespread sharing of raw data collected by American intelligence agencies.
Raw data, so unanalyzed stuff.
Exactly, unfiltered intelligence. And it allowed this sharing across 17 different government agencies.
17. How many had access before?
The source indicates this meant an additional 16 agencies, plus their employees, could now get access to top-secret intelligence they'd never seen before.
That timing, as the source notes, definitely raises eyebrows. Why did President Obama wait until the last minute to issue that order? That's the question posed in the source.
And the source itself links this change to what it calls an explosion of leaks coming from intelligence agencies afterwards.
So more access, potentially more leaks.
That's the implication raised. Lou Gingrich's perspective, also cited in the source, suggests this order could even allow sharing of information which you don't even believe is true.
Like rumors.
Yeah, like rumors and gossip, which he suggests could then be turned into news stories. And then there's William Binney. He's a former NSA intelligence official. Our source mentions a sworn affidavit he gave.
What did Binney say?
He made a really significant claim. He stated that Executive Order 12333, the same order Obama altered, allows the government to collect and store not just metadata.
Metadata being the who called who when info.
Right, not just that, but the actual content, the words spoken, the text written of, and this is his claim, every phone call, every text, every email of every American.
Every American.
Yeah.
That's a massive claim about the scope of collection under that order.
It is. And Binney linked it directly to the order that was changed right at the end of the administration, a very critical point about surveillance powers.
Okay, the deep dive then moves on to the WikiLeaks revelations. Our source talks about thousands of documents being released, making some very serious allegations about CIA buying capabilities and techniques.
Yeah, the source summarizes some key points from those WikiLeaks documents known as Vault 7. First, there's the allegation that U.S. spies can, quote, access some televisions, smartphones, iPhones.
Access them how?
And record sound, images, and even private messages on encrypted communication apps. So basically turning everyday devices into listening devices.
Okay, that's one part. What else?
Second, WikiLeaks alleged, and the source reports this, that the CIA has the capability to make its cyber attacks look like they were done by someone else.
Sounds like.
Quote, foreign governments, say like Russia or hackers, so false flag operations in cyberspace.
How would they do that?
The source details something called the Umbrage Group within the CIA, based on the WikiLeaks docs. This group supposedly collects and maintains a substantial library of attack techniques stolen from malware produced in other states, including the Russian Federation.
Stolen malware techniques. Why?
To, quote, misdirect the attribution. Basically, they use these stolen Russian or other foreign techniques in their own attacks, leaving behind the fingerprints of the original creators. Makes it look like Russia did it, for example.
Wow, that's deceptive. What did the experts in the source say about this?
Well, William Binney, the former NSA official, he suggests in the source that the software for these kinds of penetrations probably came from places like the NSA, the UK's GCHQ, other Five Eyes partners.
The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance.
Right. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, US. Binney basically says using signals intelligence like this, well, it's nothing new for the CIA, even if technically it's not their charter.
And Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, he's also cited.
Yes. Schaefer emphasizes that these agencies have huge technology and huge power, and he stresses it must be used ethically and focused on the adversary only.
He sounds concerned.
He says he finds it somewhat troubling if these techniques are used against Americans, and he believes actions like the Flynn leak absolutely needs to be prosecuted.
He also made a more controversial claim, didn't he, about the DNC hack?
He did. Schaefer states in the source, and he prefaces this with, based on what he's heard, that the hack of the Democratic National Committee.
The one blamed on Russia, using that ATP 2829 tool.
Right. Schaefer claims it was actually done by concerned Americans who were fed up with the Clintons doing things.
Americans, not Russia.
That's his claim cited in the source, and that these Americans then deliberately put the fingerprints of the Russians on it to, quote, make it appear like the Russians. A very different narrative.
That is controversial. Did Binney add anything else?
Binney raised another concern in the source material. He claimed the government knows about all these weaknesses in firewalls, operating systems, switches, servers, and so on.
Vulnerabilities, basically.
Exactly. They know how to break into them, but, he claims, they aren't fixing them.
Why not?
His claim is that this leaves everyone vulnerable to attacks. And then, ironically, the government asks for more money for cybersecurity. It's a significant point about where cybersecurity efforts are focused.
That's a lot to consider. The sheer power, the potential for misdirection, it really leads into this broader, often kind of charged idea that our source discusses, the concept of a deep state.
Right. Operatives within the government potentially working against elected officials. Our source summarizes allegations that there were, quote, deep state Obama holdover operatives actively trying to sabotage, delegitimize President Donald Trump.
That's a strong allegation.
Yeah.
Did anyone in this source give credence to that?
Newt Gingrich's view is cited. He suggests it's very likely that the deep state, the professional bureaucrats, did do things that were very opposed to Donald Trump. He felt they were willing to be sloppy and more aggressive, especially regarding General Flynn. Gingrich called the handling of Flynn totally outrageous and, again, a felony.
The source also mentioned media involvement.
Yeah, it talks about alleged collusions between the deep state bureaucracy and the deep state media, citing examples like efforts to, quote, smear and destroy Attorney General Sessions.
But there was a counterpoint on the collusion issue, right? From a top intelligence official.
Absolutely. Crucial counterpoint mentioned in the source. General Clapper, who was the director of national intelligence under Obama, he stated publicly, and the source quotes him saying unequivocally, that based on everything he saw, all the reports, there was zero evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Zero.
Zero evidence from the DNI himself.
Yeah.
The source also touched on the personal relationship, or lack thereof, between Obama and Trump.
It did. It cited a Wall Street Journal report saying President Obama was, quote, furious with President Trump.
Furious.
Apparently. And that a call Trump made to Obama right after the inauguration was never returned. The source also points back to the campaign, quoting some downright nasty things Obama said about Trump. Things like Trump being insecure and putting others down and not caring about basic values. Definitely tension there.
Yeah, and Michelle Malkin cited in the source, she had a very pointed take on dealing with Democrats in the context of the Obama-Trump dynamic.
What was her view?
She said, essentially, when Democrats pretend to give you an olive branch, they're not actually making a signal or gesture at working together.
Okay.
Her take was, what they're going to do is snatch that olive branch back and beat you over the heads with it. Pretty strong language reflecting deep political division.
Definitely strong language. Did the source mention any proposed solutions to this perceived deep state issue?
It concluded that segment with a call, reflecting one perspective, for all Obama holdovers, mentioning over 500 needing Senate confirmation to be removed from government.
All of them. Where specifically? Especially within the Justice Department and the Department of Defense. The source cited the Clinton administration's approach as a precedent for clearing out political appointees from the previous administration. A call for a clean sweep, essentially.
So pulling all this together, wow, we've just navigated a really complex maze, haven't we? Intelligence operations, surveillance claims, leaks, intense political battles, all laid out in detail by the journalists and former officials in our source material. It leaves you, the listener, with a lot to think about. As you consider these vast capabilities that intelligence agencies have and how they seem to interact, sometimes intensely, with political events, well, here's a thought to mull over. How do we actually ensure accountability and impartiality, especially in an age like ours, where information itself, even highly classified intelligence, can so easily become just another weapon in a political fight? We definitely invite you to keep exploring these critical issues yourself. Consider all the different perspectives, the claims, the counterclaims, and, well, the implications for everyone.